Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of Expressions, the podcast. Tonight, we're interviewing a very special guest, Dan Lloyd. After a life-altering event, Dan was inspired to explore and document his beautiful hometown of Thunder Bay, as well as the surrounding area. He took up photography to document what he was seeing with a renewed outlook on life. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Expressions, the podcast. Tonight, we have a very special guest on with us, Dan Lloyd, who is a photographer, an explorer, and a survivor. So we're going to take a minute to talk to our co-hosts before we get into talking to Dan. So first off, right beside me here, we've got Brian Weiss. Brian, how are you this evening?
I'm awesome. I actually just got off a whole week teaching at Michael Art Gallery for their spring camps, which was so cool. Very refreshing, as Aurora saw when she was in the store when I was there with her the next day. I was all excited and invigorated. It's really great teaching kids. And Dan, we were talking a few seconds ago, and you said you are just getting into photography as a creative, which I think, and I mentioned this, is my favorite person. Somebody who's getting into photography, has a higher level of interest to learn about it, and just really wants to grasp all they can. I just love that. And that's the kind of person I can spend hours talking to. So this is probably going to be a great conversation.
Perfect. There's so much to learn.
It never ends. It literally never ends. It's the only thing I've ever done that you can never, ever get to the end of.
I feel like I message Mark every couple of days asking a question or two.
I'm sure he doesn't mind. I'm sure he doesn't mind at all.
We've spent a little bit of time with Zoom meetings talking about camera settings and things, so it's been great. Cool. And then our other co-host, my other co-host here, Aurora Robinson. Aurora, how are you this week?
I'm doing great. I have another few days off. It was really nice to be at work for a bit there, and then I have another few days off. My regional manager actually suggested I take some more time off, so that was kind of nice for sure. I've been great. I'm excited to talk to Dan today about his experience and a bit about getting into photography. I very much am the same as Brian, as I really like talking to people who are starting in photography. It's good to get a different outlook because everybody has a different perspective. So really excited. I am a little sad. We're down a co-host today.
We're missing Ryan Knight, who is normally with us. He's a little bit under the weather. Nothing too terrible. I think he said a migraine, but
which is pretty terrible, but not.
Sorry, I think I've misspoke. You're right. I've never actually had a migraine, but I do understand they can be debilitating. So I do wish him well, and I hope he's better for next week. But definitely, it's going to be a great show. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have Dan on the show. Obviously now we're a show of 4 photographers, so it's going to be interesting. So let's go talk to Dan. Dan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, and very appreciate this invite and opportunity to talk about my passions.
Excellent, and we're happy that your passion is photography. So, Dan, how long have you been into photography?
I'd say just over 2 years. Well, about 2 years, basically. I've always done a little bit, but definitely most into it last 2 years for sure.
Yeah, excellent. And now, Dan, since you and I talk, I'm going to assume a few things and share some information. But a lot of the pictures that I'll share a little bit later in the show for our YouTube viewers, you've taken a lot of those are with your iPhone. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah.
And you've just recently got a DSLR, a Nikon DSLR, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. It's taken a lot of enjoyment just to play around and figure it out. Yeah. But even with the iPhone, you're able to appreciate the beauty. But as soon as you get a camera, wow, there's a big difference, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody messes you or interrupts your pictures. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Excellent. So at the beginning of the show, I said, obviously you're an explorer and a photographer, which is excellent. I mean, I live in Thunder Bay as well. So the scenery around here is beautiful. It's right at our back doors for the most part, or even a few minutes away. So it's so many different wonderful things to go and see close to home. But Dan, you had a bit of a life-altering event, and I called you a survivor at the top of the show. So if you could, for our viewers and listeners, if you could tell everybody a little bit about what happened that was that life-altering event.
Absolutely, for sure. Just over 2 years ago, I was leaving work about 11 o'clock. Ironically enough, I forgot my work phone, so I had to run back in and grab it, and everybody else had gone, so it was just me walking my car in the parking lot. And I don't remember too much. I just remember a screeching tire, and then kind of waking up a little bit. I was able to. What had happened was individual who had mental health issues had attempted to kill me, ran me over his car. He was going about 70. I flew about 25 feet.
Oh my gosh.
I had some of the injuries I had from that is I had a broken orbital bone, fractured hip, torn rotator cuff, some knee injuries. I had 37 fancy stitches in my forehead, some skull damage. But through that, somehow I was able to call 911. And and then the next thing I remember was just being stitched up in the hospital and cracking jokes. I guess at that point, you're in such a shock that all I could do was make some jokes, and he'd be like, "We got hit by, this is going to hurt if we swap your head," and I'd be like, "Oh, I got hit by a car, so it doesn't seem so bad."
And so, Dan, how long were you in the hospital?
I was in, we basically, in emergency, I was in there for a week, and then we have like a rehabilitation center, I guess you would call it, our transition center, St. Joe's here. I was there for 3 weeks. So in total, I was in the hospital for a month. And when I originally, when I was, when I woke up in the hospital, I was told that there was a good chance I wouldn't be able to walk for a year and might not have full function properly of some of the things. But I was very fortunate. And within 3 months, I was back at work, and in about 3.5 months, I was walking with the apparatus. Definitely very lucky and very fortunate, for sure.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah, it's when you wake up to that, it's definitely not something you normally would want to hear, but for me, it was a choice of either accepting it or not accepting it.
If I may, your audio kind of crackles in and out a little bit. And just so everybody who's listening to the audio only on the podcast, you went to your car after work, you turned around to go back to your store. On the way back, you got hit by somebody. On
my way, I had turned around, got my phone, grabbed my phone as I was walking back to my car. Somebody struck me in the parking lot. And there was nobody in the parking lot. It was just him and I.
Oh my gosh.
And when the police arrived, he was sitting on his car, and he said he just wanted to kill somebody.
He just wanted to kill somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How do you handle that? How does... Okay, so this is like... Don't think I'm trying to compare this, please.
Everyone has things. I don't take anything.
I was walking home on Halloween from work, and I got egged. And I had... To this day, I wonder, why me? Do you have that going through your head? I couldn't even imagine.
I think I do to some degree, and it's just ironically enough and unfortunate enough, just about timing. Like, if I didn't forget my phone, that would have been me and 4 or 5 other people, and odds are, I wouldn't have been struck. Because that simple thing is forgetting my phone and walking to my car alone, I was an easy target.
Wow. So he was just sitting back and waiting.
Yeah, apparently he was in our parking lot for 3 days. He was living in his car, and he was in the parking lot for a few days, and then just had enough and decided he wanted to spend the rest of his life in jail, and struck me.
Wow. Well,
wow.
I'm so happy that you're as good as you are. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It definitely puts things into perspective, and you have a different outlook on life for sure.
Absolutely. Brian, I've got a picture ready to share here if you want to make a screen share.
Absolutely.
So for our viewers at home,
by the way,
a little bit graphic. So this is, Dan shared this with me earlier today, and I had seen it before, but this is, how long had you been in the hospital at this point, Dan?
This was right after. This is about 2 hours after when they had stitched up my forehead.
So they stitched up your forehead. So with this image, Dan shared it with me, and for the listeners that are on the podcast portion of it, what we're looking at here is a picture of Dan in a hospital bed with fresh stitches across his entire forehead
and road rash everywhere you can see.
So for me, I didn't live in Thunder Bay at the time, but I knew Dan, and I happened to be working in town, and I found out that Dan had been in this accident. This assault had happened, so I went to visit him in the hospital, and he was sort of partway between this, and then here's a picture. Dan, tell everybody about this picture that's on the screen here.
So this would be actually, it was the day after Valentine's, so it was 1 day short of a month. So this is me at the last day of the hospital. At this point, I still needed to walk with a walker, but I was able to do it. This was my last day before heading home. And then, I mean, once I was home, there's still a lot of physiotherapy and a lot of recovery still to be had. But once there's great people at the hospital, so I was very fortunate too. But once you get home, it's a totally different outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you got home and you started the physiotherapy, how long did they say that your physiotherapy would be, and how long before, I don't want to say get back to normal, but before things like return to work or even to walk without assistance?
At this point, they were basically thinking, a month to 2 months of physiotherapy, and I should be able to walk on it without anything needed. Basically after this, within a few physiotherapy days, I was able to go with crutches. I would say I was 3 weeks after this, I was walking somewhat normally anyways, and I was back to work in about a month. The highlight was definitely being able to drive again, because you get some of that independence.
Yeah,
and even
absolutely.
now, I'll run into the police officers, like they'll come into work and they tell me it's the worst thing they've ever seen, or a firefighter, not to be graphic, but as he told me, had to hold my head together. Things like that you hear, and it's just like, wow.
So can I ask what happened to the person that hit you?
He's in jail, still waiting trial. It's been just over 2 years, so still, I mean, thank God he's locked up, but there's no resolution there. Actually, matter of fact, tomorrow he'll enter a guilty plea, and then within a month or so there'll be a sentencing. But it's definitely a long process. Wow, it's like 2 years later and nothing.
So
Yeah.
what are you hoping the sentencing would be? Because you always hear about the sentence coming down and everybody's upset. What would be an ideal sentence, do you think, for something like this?
Well, I base it off, as crazy as it sounds, I have friends and family that, this guy should die. But, as crazy as it sounds, I don't really feel that way. I feel there was obviously issues there, and not that I ever want to run into this gentleman again or anything, but the Crown Attorney suggests that it should be 7 to 9 years. So I don't know what it'll be in the end, but it is crazy to think that, in a perspective where your life is worth so many years.
So is this like an attempted murder?
Yeah, it was 3 charges. It was attempted murder. I can't remember the other 2 charges.
Yeah, charges don't really matter when. I mean, they do, but like, the fact that you're still around to tell this story is so much more important.
Oh, incredibly fortunate. I had a lot of good family and friends, and even now, people in my life that are constantly pushing me forward and motivating me.
So,
absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Again, it would have been so easy just to give in, and you hear a year and just let it go. But I definitely was not content with that, and I knew that I could do it a lot. Just by, I was very fortunate, even with all those injuries. I was fortunate that I didn't need any surgeries, and it was just recovery and physiotherapy.
Wow.
Yeah. Are you still recovering now, Dan? Do you have like physio, chiropractor, anything that you're still doing?
I have concussion therapy, and I was looking at knee replacement, but I'm still young, so they don't want to do knee replacement. So right now it's just concussion stuff.
Okay.
I'm a little curious, because this is a really traumatic experience. Like, having going through this, it's I'm sure it must have done something to, your overall mental health, or even just general anxiousness of being alone at night or whatever it may be. So I can't imagine what you're going through. So I thank you for sharing. But how would you say this has impacted you in that way?
In terms of that, again, I was fortunate not to remember too much about it. So, but there's certain sounds that'll like cause me to be tense, or you know, for me, it's just the sound of, you know, when the tires hit on a really cold, that freezing kind of sound like that, or, you know, walking at work and things like that. But for the most part, again, you know, I try to keep it all in perspective. And there's definitely things that I'm very hesitant to do. But again, I'm just super fortunate to be able to, for the most part, live my life. I would say even better than before. And as crazy as it sounds, you know, I'm not even sure if I would change anything. I think it's caused me to look at things a lot different and have a totally different outlook and appreciate things a lot more.
Well, that's an amazing way to look at it for sure. Very positive outlook. And I'm sure this put, you know, the value of life and, you know, stuff into perspective for you. So
sure. I mean,
yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I mean, you know, there's been, you know, times where I have had a few panic attacks which I never had before, thinking, you know, I have two boys, 21 and 17, or soon to be 21. Just thinking about watching them, watching a soccer game, I think, and just thinking that, geez, you know, really shouldn't be here, but yet here I am. So things like that are very, you know, puts it in perspective for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent. So on the outset of the assault on you, Dan, at that point you started when you and I were talking about photography, and I believe it was actually for the listeners and viewers, Dan, you did a Zoom meeting with Lakehead University. Was that correct?
I did, yeah.
And so Dan's going to share that link with us so that we can share it in the episode. Is that okay, Dan?
Oh, absolutely.
For you to share that, because I think that's still up on their YouTube channel.
I think so. I believe.
Yeah. It's where I watched it. So we'll share that as well, so people can watch that after the fact. But with this, you know, if you could just sort of explain to people when you got this renewed outlook on life, how you shifted into sort of the exploring and the photography as your hobby and your passion.
I think it was just a case of course, life's too short to don't take it for granted, but just, you know, there's so much beauty around you, amazing things. And from that moment on, whether it be pictures or obviously with COVID, it's harder to go to things. But I mean, there's even without that, just there's so much nature around, and just to have fun. Like for me, it's both having fun. You know, I have this, you know, my girlfriend bought me for Christmas these little chubby superheroes, and you know, I like to go around the city and take pictures and stuff. It's just, you know. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the chubby superheroes. They're some of my favorite pictures that you do. I've actually got one, Brian. If you want to share the screen here,
you bet.
So this, Dan, talk a little bit about the chubby superheroes and sort of where you've gone with them.
You know what? It started off with Batman and Wonder Woman, of course. You know, me and my girlfriend, of course, being Wonder Woman. Just taking pictures around Thunder Bay, like landmarks or just cool things to see. And then, of course, it was a full set. So then, you know, started adding some other superheroes as well. And, you know, it was just, you know, if I'm out there taking pictures of the sleeping giant, well, you know what? Throw a couple of them in there, and it's just, you know, make it more fun. It was her idea to kind of, you know, take these out and add a bunch of pictures every few days. And, you know what? Honestly, it gets me on it. It's just a lot of fun to do.
It's awesome how you really have this use of perspective here, like having such a small item and, you know, making it fit into the background with the choice of obviously the lens and the closeness of the subject to the camera, and the distance from the background. It's really, really good.
Was this with your cell phone or with your new camera?
This one was with my cell phone.
So
Nice.
With your new Nikon, how are you still making these images?
You know what? I've been taking pictures of animals and larger landscapes with the camera, which is unbelievable because, you know, you take a picture with your phone, you can't really get close, but with a camera, wow. You know, I was out taking pictures of otters or loons or foxes. It's crazy how, you know, the details and the clarity you get using a proper camera.
If you do it right, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to use that lenses too, you know.
Oh, yeah. Lenses. Oh, geez. I would love to do a show just on how lenses stress me out.
Perfect. So, for the listeners, what we've got here is a picture of that Dan has composed with these 5 chubby superheroes: Robin and Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, and the Green Lantern. I'm impressed. I actually knew them all. What is the building there in front of, Dan?
That's the Lakehead. That's the LU building. I think it's the technology building, or one of the new buildings on Lakehead University.
Perfect. Excellent. I'm just going to flip through a couple other of your images here. So if you want to explain a little bit about this one.
Sure. Actually, that's this I took on a lunch break with my girlfriend. We usually go to the waterfront down here, and it was just perfect timing. It was, I want to say we had a nice November, December, and it was just our lunch break, and it was just perfect timing of the boat, and the leaves were kind of falling off. I was just able to get it all in one picture. It's definitely one of my favorite ones I've taken.
Yeah, and with the sleeping giant in the background there as well.
Yeah,
so definitely.
And then sometimes I like to play around with the contrast and colors, so I was able to make it look even more like a painting, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. And the one thing that I like to talk about, especially with photography, is people say, I mean, obviously you're using your iPhone for these pictures, and quite often I like to say, people ask me, what is the best camera to have? And I often just say the one that you've got with you, because without your camera with you, you wouldn't have these pictures. So,
but as I often add to that sentiment, the one you should have is the best one you have. At all times. Always have your best camera with you, and then you
there's been a few times where I wish I had the camera with me, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll just talk about this last image here, Dan, that's on the screen before we get into more Q&A.
Sure. So that is Terry Fox in front of the sleeping giant. It's one of those pictures I've always kind of wanted to get. It's the stereotypical phone book picture. And it was just a case of everything was blue. It was good. I stood up on a bench and was able to get them both in the same picture. Definitely one of my favorite ones I've taken to Terry Fox, for sure.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and I've got some great pictures of Terry Fox as well. So the interesting thing for me is as the viewers, if anybody listened to episode 0, they would know that I've recently moved to Thunder Bay about a year and a few months ago, For me, when I worked in Thunder Bay, I spent a lot of time after work. I was always out with my camera. I was taking pictures all over the place. Since I've lived here, I haven't taken that many pictures. I have more pictures from before I lived here than in the year and 4 months that I have lived here.
Life happens.
And life does happen, for sure. So, Dan, how do you find inspiration? Like, how do you decide that I'm going to get up and I'm going to get out and do this? I
think it's
go out and go here.
Just about opportunity. Well, first thing is it gets me out and gives me a chance to walk around, enjoy things outside, and then it's just about timing. If you know it's going to be a nice morning, then you get up a little bit early and you're able to get some nice sunset pictures, or you want to go for sunrise pictures. Most of the sunset pictures I've just driven with my girlfriend, and we've just gone in the middle of nowhere and gotten some good pictures. You find an empty field, and just about opportunity and places I've always wanted to explore. I've heard of, maybe I didn't, never saw. So like in the last 2 years, I've definitely made a point to see a lot of things that I've never seen before and I've taken for granted, or even like the hidden gems that you find. I mean, there's enough information out there where people will have the list of things that you can see, and I'm just, trying to knock off as many as I can.
What are some of the places on that list that you've gone to? Outside of Nipigon, which is about an hour from Thunder Bay, say an hour and 20 minutes. There's a Jumbo Tunnel Cove, which basically is an old train tunnel. It's pretty. I think it goes 120 meters long, and then not far from there, there's Otsuka Falls. I made a point of I like the idea of the waterfalls, and so I made a point of seeing a few. And there's before doing some research, I never knew. Of course, we have Kekabeka that I'm sure everyone who drives through Thunder Bay looks at, but there's so many other ones. Like even little ones, there's Cedar Falls, just, there's so many different places around here.
Every time I hear budding photographer, my instincts kick in and I start trying to give advice and tips. And, oh, by the way, when you see waterfalls, look for the bubbles. take long exposures of just little bubbles, and you'll see they'll turn into swirls, and all these little things are going through my head to give.
Yeah, I love tips, so feel free to throw a bunch in there.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the wonderful thing is, Dan, because you live so close to me, once COVID restrictions are lifted, we can go to places like the tunnel, and we can go to waterfalls together with our families, and we can take pictures together. And the really beautiful thing is, and this is another piece of advice that people ask me all the time: what camera should I buy? And I always say, what do your friends shoot with? Because in our case, you and I both shoot Nikon. So if I've got a lens that you want to try it. You know, you want to try my tripod, a remote, a neutral density filter, whatever you want to try. I'm going to share that with you. So, make sure that you've got your friends. Always shoot what your friends shoot. So if your friends are shooting Canon, buy Canon, because they'll
That's really great advice. Yeah, friends, family, whatever it may be. Yeah. Being able to try new things, or even invest in some things yourself, and then have your friend invest in other things that you're interested in.
Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to buy accessories. Mark talked me into a tripod, so I just bought a tripod. Haven't had a chance to use it yet, but
yeah, people always think that the gear makes all the difference, when really being with people that can inspire you and learn from, and having it become easy for you makes more of a difference. If it's a challenge the entire time, so many people just give up. But if you have somebody who has the same kind of stuff and can walk you through the frustrations, you follow your path a little quicker, a little easier, and it just becomes more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. So Brian just talked about inspiring. So Dan, we had so many Brians and Ryans on previous shows.
Really?
So you're our first Dan, I believe. So,
but not the last.
But not the last. No. But no. So Dan, do you have somebody in your life that's inspires you? Maybe they're your creative muse, or maybe it's somebody that you've looked up to. Something that gets you moving when you think about them, or you're with them.
Oh, for sure. Well, first off, my kids are my life, and just to try and be able to spend my life with them is something for sure. And then I'm very fortunate. My girlfriend is an artist, and she's able to bring things I think about into perspective and actually act on them. So she's definitely a big part of I guess my enjoyment for life, and definitely my photography. And she'll get me up and be like, "Oh, hey, let's go check this out." And she enjoys it as well, so it's definitely motivating for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great to have people like that in your life.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
help inspire you to create.
Yeah,
I'd say it's almost necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, during COVID, when it was all full lockdown, and Aurora, it was just you, myself, and Joseph in our store. And you go home, you go to work, you go home, you go to work, you go home, you go to work. You saw it. I was in a real funk. And it wasn't until we started doing this podcast and doing the workshops and stuff like that you helped bring that back out of me. And then Mark jumped in, and Ryan. And I mean, the whole podcast, the whole point of it is to give us inspiration, because everybody needs it. So the fact that you had your kids at home and your girlfriend, I mean, some of my favorite times in life have just been going random drives with my wife, that we find something we would have seen again or known before. Yeah. This one tiny little waterfall, like that's now our spot, right? Like it's very cool going for those drives.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes those random ones are the best ones.
Yep, that's where we see all the wildlife usually.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or sometimes in our case, Dan, it's right in our backyard.
Well, yes, that's true. There's never a shortage of gear or anything exciting.
No, there's lots of great places up here. I think about Dan. You talked about the tunnel. I haven't been to the one that you talked about, but I've been to Flet Tunnel.
Yeah,
and that's a neat one as well.
Jumbo Tunnel is a little easier to get to the actual tunnel, a little farther away, but Flet Tunnel is a little bit of a side road drive there.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. You definitely don't want to take a car with no ground clearance up that road. That's for sure.
Those are the best roads.
They are. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Totally.
But you really want to go if you drive that.
Yeah, for sure. And I've done it a couple of times now, so it's a lot of fun. But to go places like that, I know, I know Brian's gonna shoot me, but he's I don't know, 15 hours away, so I can say this. I would love to take you out there and do some steel wool spinning, some steel wool photography. I think that would be fun. So that Brian may end up here for that.
That's just evil. That is just evil.
I've never done steel wool photography.
When
and
I do-
really want to.
When Day Tripper's allowed to start up again, and I do my burning steel wool fire on ice workshop, which would probably be fire on mud or dirt or something else by that time, you're definitely going to come to that because it's just literally a blast.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. My friend also was telling me, Elisa, she's going to be on the show at some point. She was telling me that now there's apparently like colored steel wool.
Yes.
Like that come in different colors and stuff as well. And I was like blown away. I'm like, how does that even work? But
I noticed it. I sent my mother a link to it, and she's like ready to buy it for me and send it to me. She's down in Florida, right? But you can't send it to Canada. It won't ship to Canada. So she's like, well, mail it. She's trying to think of all these ways to get it to me. I'm like, Ma, just don't even worry about it. Normal steel wool looks cool enough.
Being a newbie here, what is that? Steel wool?
I'll get you a photo. I'll share it. Mark, you
now I'm excited.
So Brian's gonna, and I think you're gonna like this. So it's using some of the same techniques that we'll shoot waterfalls with. So when you shoot a waterfall, and Brian talked about watching the bubbles if you do a long exposure. So it's basically a long exposure shot of the burning steel wool. If when you're there watching it, it's neat to watch, but it's not really wow until you've finished that 10 or 15 second exposure and the back of the camera lights up and you see what you just captured and you're like, oh my God, like that is just awesome. It's just something else. So Brian's got a picture here. So these look like they're
a few examples here. I'm doing it with a weird blind screen share thing here. I usually have two monitors, but I don't right now. Here's when I was in a tunnel with my buddy. It's kind of
wow, that's amazing.
Little moving GIF there.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite ones where we were on a school parking lot. See, the problem with steel wool, there's two things that you got to be careful with steel wool. One, it can give you kind of cancer, which isn't fun. And two, it could burn things down, which also isn't fun. So when you're doing things like this, when you have like the steel wool flying at your camera and you like doing things that are dangerous and could kill you and aren't fun, then you make sure you put a filter on your lens and you make sure you wear a mask and do things properly. So when we do our workshops, we do things as properly as you possibly can. We also make sure we stick around for a good half an hour after the workshop so that there's no smoldering embers that could light things on fire. We don't do things on wooden ships that are landmarks. We don't do things in any situation where we're worried about things being destroyed because that would just be stupid. But yeah, it's fun. The worst was actually my buddy Sean got an ember down the back of his neck while he was on an island by himself spinning steel wool on my overnight workshop. Yeah, we had to take a boat to get him.
Yeah.
He'd do it again in a minute. He just had so much fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
But Dan, if that at all interests you, I have all of the things that we need to.
That looks amazing.
I figured it would. It is a lot of fun, and it's a different type of photography, and you can get really creative. There is actually a group of guys in Thunder Bay. I see post it every now and again, where they've shot it. So of course, COVID, they're a small group of friends that have been sort of traveling together for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So sort of, if any of you are watching right now, I'm trying to get it in with you. Yeah. We actually have one coming up as a guest in another few weeks. So I'll drop that hint again when we're on that show. But
I have a question. So you were not into photography before you were attempted to be killed by this maniac. I'm still pissed off about that. That's just I can't get my mind around it. It's just a random thing like that. I just can't.
That's the hardest. That's the craziest thing. Randomness of it. There was no purpose. There wasn't like a fight broke out or something beforehand. Just
you did nothing.
No.
You did absolutely nothing wrong. But you weren't into photography before that. And why is it photography that you're gravitated to afterward? Was it somebody gave you an idea? Was it something you had always wanted to do before but never really had the time for?
I think before, the only I would take the odd picture here and there, but it was something that always interested me. I just never really acted on it too much. So, after that, not wanting to let a moment waste to not just keep thinking about it. I kind of made a point that if anything that I've wanted to do, I try my best to do it.
I understand the not wanting to waste time thing. I think one of the things I love the most about photography is that I can pretty much control time in an image, and it helps me remember things, and it just really helps me feel like I can encapsulate something important that other people, when I'm gone, if I wasn't even around, could see and take something from. Do you think maybe that's part of it too? Like you had this you survived, you cheated death, and now you're going to try and latch onto time as much as you can.
Oh, that sounds kind of weird. For sure. No, you're totally right. It's a chance to go back and be like, create that memory, or, geez, I remember that time, or yeah, absolutely, for sure. That's part of it.
Love it. Love photography.
Yeah. I also have another question. You've talked about your kids, how you have a couple kids, and they're, a big part of your life. I'm curious if any of them are interested in photography or have started to get into it because of your recent interest.
Something to do with Dad, yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet. When they were younger, more so about going out, not to pictures, but as they're pretty much independent, they do their own things now.
Okay.
But I do hope to, bring them along a little bit more once COVID kind of settles down and such.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Another thing I was curious about as well is it looks like you've got a bunch of framed pictures up behind you in the background. Are those yours?
They are, yeah. So through this with my girlfriend, actually, she has a production company. She does children's plays and stuff like that. So through there, she suggested I start selling some of my pictures, and I thought, well, nobody's going to buy them, And then I suddenly the Sleeping Giant with the one I took on our lunch break. I suddenly sold 10 of those. It was just crazy, the response. So yeah. So I've been doing that as well from out of nowhere, and then I started liking black and white looks. So I think most of those are, other than the chubby superhero ones and yeah, they're just at places around the city.
That's awesome. I feel like selling your first picture is a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. Because again, you never thought, other than my mom, anybody's going to buy one. And then she wanted hers for free anyway. So.
Well, that's when you rope it into a birthday gift.
That's it's her birthday today, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Well, happy birthday to Dan's mom.
Oh, wow, happy birthday.
Excellent. So Dan, is there a creative path or something that you wanted to try but you haven't yet?
I think painting. Like, my girlfriend does a lot of painting. She's amazing, and one thing I definitely can say is I'm not very good at is painting, but we do have some paint nights and trying to learn. I'd like to get more involved in that, especially sceneries. I don't know what it is, but I just like landscape and sceneries.
Yeah, excellent.
I can see it by your photos, though. I mean, something about the land that you live in really speaks to you. I understand it. And every time I go out with the camera to make landscape photos, I just think, oh, there's no eagle. there's no osprey. I just leave the camera sitting beside me.
Yeah. Animals, since I got the camera, animals are my favorite ones, just because, with a phone, it's hard to get in there close, and you can't really zoom without losing the clarity. But with the camera, holy cow, you can zoom in there and still keep the clarity.
Yeah, unless you're really lucky or the animal's dead, it's not good with a cell phone.
That's right. Yeah. For some reason, people don't like dead animal pictures. I don't get it.
It's kind of creepy, but each to their own. I don't judge. Much.
Yeah, fair enough, but judge much. Well, excellent. So as far as the animals, so you've started taking animals. Do you have sort of a list of animals that you've? First off, what animals have you taken? And the second part of the question is, do you have a list of animals that you want to get pictures of?
Well, I've taken otter in Thunder Bay. As you know, there's tons of loons everywhere. I mean, bird too. And I took my phone. I got some bald eagle ones. I wish I had my camera.
Subtle. That was good.
Tons of. There's actually lots of bald eagles out here.
I'd like to get some wolf ones. There's a lot of wolf and coyotes around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'd love some wolf. Wolf is definitely on my list. Wild wolves. I've had wolves in cages. I've been in workshops where I've been in the cage with wolves, but I've never really had a great experience shooting a wild wolf. I've got one at like 9:30 p.m., so it's grainy and noisy, but
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I usually see them up here at the most inopportune times. Like I'm, coming in, it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I've come in from Sault Ste. Marie, and there's a wolf standing on the side of the road, and it's pitch black. And
As long as it's not in your backyard staring at your cat. That's,
Well, yeah.
that's not
also part of the reason why I have a 6-foot fence.
I have another question. You mentioned the Lakehead University. Can you explain that to me again? What that was all about?
One of the international, it's basically, I started writing articles and things to do around Thunder Bay for a girl, Jen from LU, Jen Veal, was kind enough to contact me about writing articles, and through writing articles and things to do, then she had set me up. She wanted to do, basically, it was a Zoom meeting, or it was on YouTube as well. Basically just about the positivity and then things around Thunder Bay. So, writing articles about things to do turned into that. And even through work, I have a couple more presentations to do, which is just crazy to think people want to hear that, but I'm more than glad to talk about it.
I think it's less that people want to hear it, and more that they need to hear it.
Thank you.
I think when you realize, I'm just gonna again, it's kind of not the same thing, but earlier today I was outside with my wife, and you're thinking about all the stress and all the struggles that people have, and then you realize what it is that you do have and how good it is that you do have things, and you really start to appreciate things on a different level. So I would imagine in the situation that you came out of, when you came out of that, it was one of those almost revelation type moments where you're just like, look, I'm good. This didn't end things. Was it something like that for you, or?
Oh, absolutely. It was, for sure. It was, just, don't take anything for granted. Don't pass on, and find out what's important to you, and then, hold on to it or explore it.
Sorry, was it don't pass on any opportunities? Is that you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Your audio kind of cut in. So.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, don't pass on the opportunities or the experiences. Find out what you like, what makes you happy, and then hold on to them, or keep exploring them, for sure.
And if you can, I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to do that are just not possible right now.
Well, I'd love to go to a concert, but I feel like that, unless it's me singing in the shower, nobody's in.
Yeah, I know. And I'm watching wrestlers. I photograph wrestling, and I'm watching people I know, like
that would be amazing.
They're still wrestling. One of them was just in Mexico, and then next thing he's in the States wrestling, and like that's still a world that's just boggling to me. But when those things start back up again, and we can do those things, that's great. But until then, we're finding other things we can do. We're finding
that's it too.
And that's important. That's super important. Again, a big reason why we're doing this whole podcast is to give people an idea of other things they can do during lockdown, things to keep them motivated, stories to tell them about how, life sucks pretty bad these days, but it's a lot better than it could be. And if you're keeping a positive frame of mind, it's even better. So,
well, that's it, right? It's all about perspective.
For sure. Just like your little superhero critters that you do. It's all about perspective, right?
Yep. Exactly.
That's my technical term. My little finger's going up and down saying critters. I love those. I can't wait to see you do more of those, and I hope you do continue that series.
I did get a little addicted, because then I ended up ordering some of the Office little people, and then I ordered some WWF Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior little people.
Yeah.
WWF, yeah, buddy, do it. Yeah. That's awesome.
You'll have to do some of those, Dan, and put Brian as a friend on Facebook, because Dan does share quite a few of his pictures on Facebook of the chubby superheroes. So,
well, I can definitely get those photos seen by a lot of wrestlers. That's for sure.
Perfect.
Before we let you go, though, Mark, did you want to segue into our questions?
Yeah. So
unless there's something else that you wanted to bring up, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Dan, no, okay. So before we go to the questions, Aurora, do you have any more questions for Dan at all?
No, I'm actually really curious what he's going to answer these questions.
Oh, these questions, okay.
Yeah.
And Brian, what about you?
Sounds like a lot of pressure.
No, it's just we peel back more layers, just one or two more layers that a creative would inspire people with the questions that we ask. But do I have any more questions? No, I'm just really happy that you're here, Dan. I'm really happy that things worked out as well as they did for you. and that you've taken on photography. And I can't wait to one day get together and maybe do a photo walk or something like that with you guys. Maybe if I'm doing a workshop down here and Mark's taking the trip, you can come down and hang out with us for a while or something like that.
I did live in Aurelia for 2.5 years. I was been married quite a bit, so.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm every 40 feet.
I'm a little south of Barrie, but I got to represent Barrie wrestling. That's all.
I like it. I like the shirt.
Perfect. All right, excellent. So, yeah, absolutely, Dan. I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And I mean, I've known you since I think 2008 was when we met through work. Right. I just when I found out about obviously when you left Shoppers Drug Mart and you went back to Walmart, that was something that kind of bummed me out because you were one of those guys that I'd always connected with. But and then of course when you had the assault,
those wing nights.
Yeah, the wing nights. Yeah, those were good. Yeah, we still need to do that, but COVID messed it all up. No,
I know.
No wing nights.
Damn
no wing
pandemic.
nights. And it's not the same when you get them takeout. You know, you gotta.
No, it's.
I haven't had hot restaurant food since I can remember.
Oh, I know.
So it's just something else. But no, I do appreciate you being on here. I appreciate your creativity. Looking really forward to getting out and shooting with you and going and seeing some more of the sites around Thunder Bay. One of my bucket list things now, I've seen a lot of pictures from it, is I've been to the main Outlook observation platform up on Mount McKay, which interesting. There's another story behind that for you, Brian, but Dan sent me up Mount McKay one winter up a non-service road
that, yeah.
in my rental car. So I made it up and I made it back, but I did unfortunately tear four-wheel drive right out of the rental car. Out of the truck
my Lord.
Don't tell Enterprise. It was, I think the statute's over. It was like 2009. But so that was fun. Yeah, looking forward to getting out and doing those. But I understand you can actually hike up further on the mountain. So
it's not a far hike. It's definitely a huge incline, but the view from there is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I want to do that one. So maybe you and I can tackle that one together one day.
Oh, absolutely.
But to our final questions. So the first one is. Dan, what is your jam? What is it you're listening to right now? What song is it that you've got on repeat in your head all day that you reach over, you turn up the knob while you're driving, you just crank the volume? What is that song?
You know what? Right now, Metallica, Whiskey in the Jar. I love it. I mean, I always like the song, but lately for sure. And then I've been listening to a lot of country and, depending the mood, a lot of the slower romantic songs.
Okay.
Although that I wouldn't say that's the pump up jam. That's that's a different kind of jam. That's a slow dance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely digging the Metallica though. That's
definitely a big fan of the 90s heavy metal, Faith No More and such.
Oh, nice.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so the next question we have is tools of the trade. So a lot of times we talk about, as photographers, a lot of photography podcasts do, what's in your bag, tools of the trade. We're a little bit different here. So we want to, what's your tool? What is that one thing that you never leave home without when you're going out to be creative? What's that one thing that you have in your bag?
I would say just different lenses. Again, just being new, but I've learned in a short time just the purpose of different lenses. Where sometimes I had like the better lens or the one that would zoom in more, but it doesn't really suit the situation, and sometimes it zooms in too well, and you don't get the perspective properly. I would say different lenses.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please do, for sure.
For your little chubby pictures, your chubby superheroes. Yeah. If you were to pick up like a 40 millimeter macro.
Yeah.
And maybe the macro ring flash kit that Nikon makes.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Oh,
I would love to see
that idea.
Yeah,
perfect.
The macro is going to give you the 40 millimeter specifically is going to give you the ability to get quite close to them.
Yeah.
So you can get low, and it's still wide enough that you're going to still be able to see a group of them.
Okay.
But you're going to get 1-to-1 size, so like their faces will look life size. It'll give you a completely different look, kind of like your cell phone photos, but a little bit bigger almost. And the ring light is basically just this light that has two little heads that you can move and you can put them around, and they're fired by a wireless slave basically. So you can put one behind them if you want to. You can put one in front of them. You can use one light as like a dramatic with a color on it if you want to shine against the wall, and it'll take the picture. When you take the picture, it'll fire those lights at the same time and give you control. Like I love control of light and color and stuff like that. So by adding these little flashes, you're able to completely modify your color and your lighting.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds very cool. I've been looking to do different things, so that's very cool.
There you go.
Awesome.
It only cost you about $1,500, but you know.
Chump change.
Yeah, and that's probably why I don't have a 40 millimeter macro in my.
The macro is the cheap part. It's the flashes that are like.
The flashes.
Yeah.
I know. I keep looking at them.
I was just about to say. I mean, you could very well get just a flash and like a regular on top of the camera flash, and take it off the camera and get that different perspective of light.
What Nikon? That's so true, actually, because depending on your camera, what Nikon body do you have, Dan?
3200.
Okay.
It's older.
Hypothetically, if you had the 7100, it has the ability for the pop-up flash to wirelessly control other flashes.
Oh, okay.
The 3200 doesn't do that?
No. I mean, unless your flash is just on a photo slave, which would fire from any pulse. But it doesn't have the creative lighting system built in until maybe the 5000 started having it. But the 7100 gives you full control over channels and groups.
But what you could do in lieu of that is if you get like the Godox lights, like a Godox TT685, and you know, like one of the TTL triggers made by Godox, you can use do the exact same thing as the Nikon creative lighting system and actually not really need line of sight. It works off a radio signal.
Actually, that would be a better option.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why she's the manager of the store.
There you go.
That's a great idea. I like that idea better.
Perfect. Yeah, I have a lot of, actually, I've just started with the Godox flashes. I've got one, and I haven't got the trigger yet because the rest of my flashes are Nikon. So does Godox make a receiver for?
Yeah. I've got 5 receivers, and I've got 1 transmitter, and
Yeah, and if you have a Godox flash, you don't need the receiver because it's built into the flash. But yeah, they make receivers for like other brands. So if you already have a Nikon receiver, a Nikon flash, and then you get a Godox flash later, you can pair it all the same way.
Yeah, let me get my bang bag. I'll set it all up and show you how to do it right now.
It'll just take him a second.
Literally, like 20 seconds, I can show you.
One thing actually a lot of people don't think of with transmitters and receivers is that they don't think that if they're moving to a different system, they need to buy a whole other set of systems. But if you have the receiver on, let's say you shot Sony before, and you switch to Nikon or whatever it may be, you can put the receiver on the Sony and the trigger on your Nikon, and you can trigger a different brand flash too that way. So a lot of people don't think of that either.
Yeah, in fact, when I had the Sony camera that I had used before, I'm using the Nikon again. When I had the Sony camera here and I borrowed that 200 to 600, I was using my Nikon triggers and receivers to do some flash work with them.
Very cool.
Just not on auto.
Very cool. So that's another aspect that I've gotten, and it's Brian's fault that I got into that, was because of the creative lighting system. Brian ran a workshop many years ago called Creative Use of Flash, and I think I had the D300S at the time, and it had the creative lighting system on it because I don't think the D50 had it. So. That's where I started using the off-camera flash, and I do a lot of work with off-camera flash. So something else, if you're interested, Dan, I mean, we can get more into that, and if there's triggers and things like that. So it is fun. It's just something else to be creative, especially it's rainy or snowing. It snowed here last night. We had 10 centimeters of snow last night.
10.
Yeah.
So, I was walking around in almost a t-shirt out in the yard today. Nice.
Yesterday I was. Yeah.
We're going to have that snow here, though, by the end of the week. Yeah. So it's not over yet.
Was that true? Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Yep. Okay. And then the last question I have for you, Dan, it's not really a question, is we like to issue a challenge to our listeners and viewers. And so what have you thought of a challenge? You were thinking about one, but you weren't sure what you wanted to offer up as a challenge for the week.
I would just say for anybody that's listening, or to find something that they remember as a kid and then take a picture of it now.
I like that. I like that.
To recreate a childhood memory type of
That's
thing.
right. Yeah, I know a lot of the things I'm drawn to are things growing up that kind of take you back to a time similar to your taking pictures and so you can remember the time.
I like it.
The nostalgia.
Yeah. There's a big. We're big as I get older. I get bigger on nostalgia. It's gotten me in trouble a few times.
Yeah. I think I've gone back to the 80s.
Sorry, what was that?
I think I've still gone back and living in the 80s.
Yeah, I haven't left the 80s. I really like the idea, though, because it's a lot more about looking into who you are and a lot less about photography. And that's something I always like to get into is, your personal story is where you end up. All your life influence what you like as far as imagery that you see and sound that you listen to and tastes that you taste and smells that you smell. It's all based on your personal history, where you were born, what your parents told you when you were a kid, like all the little life stories and all the incidents that happened to you along the way influence every single thing that you enjoy in your photography and any of the creativity that you do. So to look back and recreate a childhood memory, my first thought was like, man, what memory as a kid would I want to? And then you start thinking about all the stories and all the different things, and that could lead to a lot of really cool things.
This reminds me of something. So my boyfriend, his brother, he has a younger brother, and his younger brother found these series of images on, I don't know whether it was Instagram or Facebook or whatever it may be, recreating old childhood. Hello?
I just made you full screen.
Oh, okay.
I'm playing with
I was
toys.
like, did everybody suddenly drop off the call?
Sorry.
We're here.
I just giving you front and center, out there.
Oh boy. Everybody's staring at me. This is the stage fright setting in right now.
All right,
so anyway,
I'll put you back.
He found this series of images where you're recreating like childhood photographs, and a lot of them are really funny. So it's like maybe 20 or 30 years later, and it's like these kids in ridiculous costumes, like persons in like a Toy Story outfit or whatever it may be, like they're dressed up like a bug, and then the other one's dressed up like something else, and they're doing these crazy like over-exaggerated kid-like poses, but now they're doing them 30 years later or 20 years later, in the same kind of costume and the same kind of pose, and it's just hilarious. So one time he asked me if he could recreate this photo of himself and Andrew in I think Andrew was in a cow costume and Thomas was in like a sailor costume, and he asked me if I could recreate it, and I said I would love to do that. That would be hilarious. But Andrew was not with this plan at all.
Come on.
He wasn't having it.
Those photos are awesome.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're pretty funny.
I love it.
I think you should do that with your boys, Dan. You've probably got lots of pictures of them from when they were kids. Start recreating them now.
I think that's a great idea. I like the Halloween costume idea the best.
Yeah, because I think that's the stuff that it has the most comedic effect.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I would do that. I'm just not sure how I would ever find a pink Power Ranger costume that would fit me at this time in life.
It's easy for me. I was either a vampire or a zombie pretty much every Halloween. So
a zombie, I would have never guessed.
No kidding, right?
No kidding. Eh? Perfect. So we're going to get wrapping up here, but before we go, obviously with Dan's story and the traumatic experience that happened to Dan, we talk about a lot of us talk about mental health issues. And one thing that's very near and dear to my heart is I work for Shoppers Drug Mart, and every year we have the Run for Women. That Brian has shared on the screen here. It runs July 4th to 11th this year in 2021. And it is a virtual run. It happens, I believe it's 17 cities across Canada. If you're interested, you can sign up and you can do a virtual run. So for my wife and I, we are going to take the dogs and we're going to walk around Boulevard Park. It's just over a 5-kilometer walk. to do that. And we're raising funds for local women's mental health charities. So for all of the stores here in Thunder Bay and the surrounding area that are doing the run, and I think we're up to almost 50 people that are participating in the run just in the Thunder Bay area. All of that money goes towards local women's mental health charities.
Awesome.
So that's a great thing. And then
great cause.
Yeah, awesome. It's awesome. And Aurora, you also have a cause, I believe.
Yeah, both me and Brian are really involved in our the Henry's Foundation. It's a foundation for mental health. It's based out of, obviously, our place of work, Henry's, and all the donations we take go directly to Kids Help Phone, CAMH, Jack.org, and other Canadian mental health institutions in different areas. So, like, in our particular area, CAMH is kind of like the localized charity, plus Kids Help Phone and Jack.org are the national charities. But like if you donate in Vancouver, part of the donation, instead of going to CAMH, goes to VG UBC Hospital. And there's different ones in different areas. So a lot of great causes out there. For me, like I've experienced dealing with mental health and that kind of thing myself, but I have quite a few relatives who have gone through really strong and difficult times through mental health, and for me, it made sense to be a part of it. I really wanted to help whatever way I can, because some of these places have helped some of the people that are near and dear to me more than you would ever be able to know. So it's an amazing cause. In Newmarket alone, we've raised almost $6,000.
I think we've way gone past 6,000. We haven't updated it since it was 5,700 and something, and that was a month ago now. So
so we're over 6,000. I just don't know exactly what the total is. So that's really great to see. Since last July was the
that's when we reopened. That's June or something.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's kind of a timeline isn't quite right because we pre-record these shows, but we found out today that the donations from Brendan Coalfield added up to $150 that we got in, and he's matching that, so that's $300 that Brendan is contributing, which is pretty awesome. Well, 150 he's giving, and the 150
from
perfect, excellent,
from some amazing contributors that are part of our world that helped out with us. So thank you very much to those people.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. And so I will wrap it up. So just this is Expressions, the podcast. I just want to say thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. Dan, very, very thank you for you to be here today. Very special thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Much appreciated.
Oh yeah, we really appreciate it. Just your story is it's horrifying at the same time as it's also as inspiring as it is, because you took that negative event that happened in your life and used it to drive your passion for photography and to chase your passion for photography. So that's us for Brian, Aurora, and unfortunately Ryan that couldn't be with us. Thank you for tuning in and have a great night, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Ooh.